Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Linda. I'm Linda. You know, I love a good conversation, so let's have one. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. Statistics from the American Bar Association's Commission on Domestic Violence found that Black females experience intimate partner violence at a rate of 35% higher than that of white females, and about 22 times the rate of women of other races. Today, we have two ladies that are survivors of domestic violence, and they are willing to share their story. Conversations with Linda, welcome our first survivor, Kendra. Kendra, welcome to Conversations with Linda.
Thank you, Dr. Linda. Thanks for having me.
All right. You know what? Can I just say, I read your some of your story on social media, and I had no clue because you're in our church and you look like you've not been through any of the things that you told about on social media. So I really want to say how I admire you for telling your story. And I admire the fact that you bounced back. And girl, when you bounced back full throttle. I love it. I love it. But thank you for coming on our show. So Kendra, your situation happened with a spouse.
Yes, it is.
Can you tell me how long were you all married?
We were married actually 5 years, but we have been knowing each other ever since I was 9 years old.
What?
Yes.
And somebody that you had known since you were 9 began abusing you once you all were married?
Yes, we were both raised in the same church.
Wow.
We sang in the choir. His dad was a superintendent. My grandmother was a usher. And it just blossomed from there. And one thing led to another. And it's something that I thought would never happen to me.
Wow. When did it start?
Actually, it started before we got married.
Really?
But, yes, ma'am. I was thinking that, okay, well, this will pass. I'll be okay.
Okay, wait a minute. Slow this down. You all were dating?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We were dating.
And what happened? What was the first time?
The first time was we were at church, and the pastor was praying. And while he was praying, he slapped me during the service, during the prayer.
Wait a minute, girl. He slapped you if the pastor was praying?
Yes, ma'am.
And you all were like in the church?
In the church. He said that I was watching the pastor, but clearly my eyes were closed.
Okay. And then did the pastor know he slapped you?
He did. He spoke with him. His dad said something to him, and he apologized, and he was like, it'll never happen again. And I was like, okay, and I just brushed it off. But I didn't know that it was going to get worse from there.
Okay, I forgive me, but I am floored that he did this in the church. Pastor is praying. I mean, I've just got to take that in.
Yes, ma'am, he did.
And what was your thought? I mean, I know you said it'll pass, but in that moment, did you have a knee-jerk reaction to slap him back?
No, because I wasn't a fighter.
Okay.
I didn't like confrontation.
Okay.
I just watching my dad many years with other women, not my mom.
Okay.
But he was abusive as well.
Really?
And this was something that I never, ever thought that I would be, in this
Sure.
position. Yes, ma'am.
And so he said it'll never happen again.
He said
But
it
then
never
it
happened
did.
again, but it did, because we talked through elementary. We went to junior high school together. In high school, I got married in the 12th grade,
Okay.
and I was pregnant in the 12th grade.
Mm.
And being in a sanctified church,
Okay.
they want you to get married. They
Okay.
want you to be together.
Sure.
You've done the deed. So,
Right.
You have to get married. So we got married. So once we got married, he started dealing in drugs.
Okay.
And once he started dealing in drugs, someone laced the drugs that he had taken.
Uh-huh.
And after that, he was hooked on crack cocaine.
Okay.
And from there, it just spiraled out of control, and it just went downhill after that.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
So from the time that you got this, he slapped you,
Mhm.
nothing occurred again until,
We had arguments.
Okay.
He became real violent after that. Just go in a rage. He would go in a rage with his own mother and father.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. And I was like, okay, well, they don't know what he's been through. And, I'm just trying to make, just trying to take up for him.
Yeah. Because you're trying to rationalize his behavior too, that
Yes, ma'am.
somehow this has to make sense.
Right. But I loved him.
Okay.
I cared for him a whole lot.
Well, you've been knowing each other since if you're
since I was 9, and I was
Yeah.
the only child. My mom was in a
Okay.
nursing home. My dad was on drugs as well, and I was raised by my grandmother. And
Okay.
she was old school, and she was like, "You have to put your trust in God, and just pray about it. It's going to get better. It's going to get better."
Because she knew of the abuse.
Yes, ma'am, she did,
Okay.
and she tried her best to say something to him. She was afraid of him. He
Wow.
was very, very violent.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Listening to you, so many women find themselves in this type of situation where there is a community of people. I hate to say supporting it, but certainly winking at it, turning a blind eye to it, and encouraging the wife to hang in there. And as you said, because you've got now church beliefs,
Yes.
spiritual beliefs that you ought to stay.
Yes, ma'am.
And on top of that, your dad was abusive.
Yes, ma'am. He was abusive to the other women that he was with, not
Yeah.
with my mom, because they were divorced. And I saw him beat women, strangle them, choke them, and I was like, "Oh, I'll never be in that situation."
Did your dad ever give you an explanation for why he did that?
Never, because while my dad was on drugs, my husband was smoking with my dad.
Oh, wow.
My dad was encouraging my husband to beat me.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow.
Yes, ma'am.
I embrace my heart to even hear that, because I'm just feeling you being alone in this situation, with your dad supporting this.
Right.
And obviously he had been indoctrinated some kind of way that this is how you treat women.
Yes, ma'am.
And grandmom is telling you, hang in there.
Hang on in there, keep praying, God's going to turn it around. She kept telling me that. She was like, don't hate him, just pray for him. But it kept getting worse and worse and worse.
How bad did it get? What was the worst that you experienced?
The worst that I experienced is when I was pregnant at this time, and we got to fighting. It was always something minor. I think it was something like I put too much salt or something in the food, and we got into it. And then he said that I was watching his dad, which I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
We were living with his parents once we got married.
Okay, so he was jealous.
He was very jealous.
Okay.
He was jealous and paranoid. So this particular time, we got to fighting, and I got up, and he was like, get ready. So I got ready.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I'm taking mama to the grocery store. So at this time, this was Big Star, and we went to Big Star on 3rd Street. And I started feeling really, really funny. And then I just started hemorrhaging. I started hemorrhaging really, really bad.
Because you're pregnant.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I knew something was wrong. So he ran in the store. He got his mom, and he was like, I got to take Kendra to the hospital. Something's wrong. So we lived in Westwood at that time. So we went to the med. I bled from Westwood all the way to the med. And I kept going in and out of consciousness. So once I got there, and he went in to get someone to come and get me, and they came and got me, and it was just blood everywhere. Just blood from the car all the way into the hospital. So they rushed me to the back, and they was like, she's having a miscarriage, but she's bleeding. We got to stop the bleeding. And the doctor was like, I got to get her to the ER. To the operating room. We got to stop this bleeding. And so all of them were full, and he just kept saying, Lord, I got to find somewhere. We're gonna lose her. And I could hear them, but I was going in and out, in and out. So after that, I could hear them, but my eyes were closed, and I was just like, I can't believe I'm going through this. I just can't believe, he kept saying, I'm sorry. I could hear him saying,
because you were in this state, you're hemorrhaging because of what happened at home.
Because of the fight that we had. And it was a knockdown, drag out, tear up the living room, furniture everywhere. And I was just trying to stay alive.
And his parents were there?
they were there and they were hollering, Tony, stop this, Tony, stop this. But when he gets into a rage, he can't hear anybody. He can't see anybody. He's just on a mission. He's just out to do what he wants to do.
Mission.
Yes, ma'am. So.
And did you fight back?
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. And I just stopped fighting back and I just laid there, you know, and I would just lay there and he would just slap me, kick me and bite me. And my fingers have been broken. I mean, I've been stabbed.
Kendra.
Yes, ma'am, it's been a lot.
Wow. I am so sorry. I mean, and you know, I know that may not mean anything, but it just breaks my heart to know that kind of abuse at the hands of a husband, and nobody to help you. Nobody thought about knocking him upside the head. You know, I can understand you.
Yeah.
And I know people don't all the time understand the victim as she's in it.
Right.
Why she's not fighting back. But all of these people around.
No one wanted to say anything. No one wanted to get involved.
They didn't want to get involved.
And when his dad tried to step up for me, you must be like my dad. You and my dad must have something going. And that took that to another level.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, living there. I tried to get away from him. It just, it wasn't working.
When you would try to get away, would he come after you?
At this time, I had, we had 3 living children because I've had several miscarriages.
Wait a minute, you had 7?
Several,
okay.
and I've had several stillborn children that I lost due to fighting with my husband.
Oh.
So this particular day, I got up and I got on. I said he was going somewhere. I got up and we got my kids and got on the bus.
Okay.
I caught the bus, went downtown, got a transfer, went to Castelia where my grandmother lives, and I was like, Lord, I've gotten away. I'm so happy. I get ready to get off at my stop, and guess who's at the stop?
He's
He
right there.
was at the stop. The bus driver stopped the bus. I got off. I had no choice. He got the kids, put them in the car, just like in a movie. And when I got in that car, he jumped on me. He beat me black and blue.
Oh, wow.
Yes, ma'am. My head has been bust. My eyes have been black, and you name it, he's done it. He was on drugs so bad till one day we were on 3rd Street, and I was 8 months pregnant. And he had me picking up the manhole covers off the ground because he wanted to take them to the junkyard, you know, like the drainage things, the heavy things. And he got angry at me and he dropped them and broke my fingers.
Girl. Did you ever, Kendra, think about going to the police?
He always told me, if you go somewhere, I will kill you. Because my record at the Med was so thick, and they was like, you got to get out of this. But I was afraid. He said if I told, he would kill my grandmother. I didn't have anybody really but my grandmother. No other family members. He said, I'll take her away from you. I'll kill our children. I couldn't do it.
So how did you finally get away?
I just kept praying. And it was this place on Peabody, and I went there and I told them my situation, and they looked up my records from the hospital, and they had this program where they helped you get a divorce.
Okay.
So I filled out the paperwork and everything. It was like a shelter, and I stayed there with me and my kids. And after that, I was able to get my divorce from him.
But so going there, you lived in that shelter?
I lived in a shelter. It was an undisclosed place.
An undisclosed place.
Right. It's no sign out there in the yard.
So he didn't know where you were?
No, ma'am. He did not.
And that was 5 years in to the marriage?
Well, we were married 5 years,
Okay.
but we only stayed together 3 years.
Okay.
So the other years was pure torture. And once I did get my divorce, I moved back to my grandmother's house. It went down from there. He broke into my apartment. He would cut my tires.
What?
He would cut all the wires under my hood so that I couldn't go anywhere. So one day he came and he was like, I'm going to kill you. So he was kicking the back door, and she lived like in these, like project, apartments. And I called 911, and the lady, she was like, what's that noise? And I said, that's my husband. I said, he's kicking the door. He was kicking the door, kept kicking the door, trying to get to me.
Yeah.
She said, you don't have a gun? I said, no, ma'am, I don't. She said, you go in the kitchen. She said, get you 2 butcher knives. She said, you get your kids, put them in the closet, go in there, shut the door, put them behind you. And if you come in, she said, baby, you come out swinging. So by this time, I was so scared. I was terrified. And I heard the back door hit the floor. And when the back door, it was a steel door, when it hit the floor, the police was like, I got him, because she kept saying, they're en route, they're en route, they're almost there. I could hear the sirens.
Yeah.
But I was like, Lord, what's taking so long, to get him?
Sure.
He's going to kill me, he's going to kill my kids. And they finally got him. But every time he would go to jail, his mom and dad would go back. They would go get him.
Lord have mercy.
And we would have to start all over again.
Mm.
Until finally he moved out of town. And
He just moved.
He moved out of town because he had got involved with some people about drugs.
Okay.
And they were going to kill him.
Okay.
So let me back up. Before they did that, we were living in some apartments. And we stayed at his mom's house for about a week. And when we got ready to come back home because it was snowing, they were in my apartment. They had broken in my apartment. They were eating my food. They were watching my cable TV. The people that he owed the money to. They took out an AK-47, put it in my baby's head and told me,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
they told me if they didn't find him, because he took off running and left me.
Uh-huh.
If they didn't find him, they want to kill my kids and they want to kill me. So I called my grandmother. She was like, just come home. We just have to do what we have to do. And that's when I went to the program.
Okay.
And that's how I got out.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
I'm just startled, and I just cannot even imagine that kind of terror, having to live with that day. Were you going to work?
I couldn't go to work. Every job that I had, I would lose because we would get to fighting. He said I was dating someone at the job.
Wow.
So basically, we were going from place to place. And every time I would get paid, he would take all my money. I would have to rush and get money orders because he was on drugs. He was trying his best to get, the drugs. He said, I'm trying to get the same high. And they're telling him, you can never, ever get that same high. He had been to several programs and nothing helped. Nothing.
And you were still loving him.
I was still loving him.
I know somebody's listening to this and saying, how can you love someone when they are mistreating you, physically abusing you, causing you to lose babies? Are there any words to explain that?
I was just trying to do the Christian thing. Like I said, we was in a sanctified church.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was strictly about the Bible. And she was like, baby, whatever he's doing to you, he's going to get it back. He says, God is not going to continue to let him do things to you. And he's not going to be blessed with it.
Wow. But this piece about you loving him, can you explain? How do you love? What part of you loves? And how is that? Just kind of, if you can put it into words.
I loved him so much because I was looking for love. I was looking for love from my mom, which I didn't get because she was ill.
Okay.
I was looking for love from my dad that I never got because he was on drugs. And I just wanted to be held and, talked to.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted somebody just to be there, to be in my corner.
Yeah.
And I had no one. It was just me and my kids.
So we're in the midst of all of this. Are you telling me there were some good days or some good things about him?
There were some good days, very few.
Okay.
But after that, once he got on drugs, he became someone that I didn't know.
Yeah.
I never knew the person that he became.
Wow. Amazing. Thank the Lord. I mean, and those words don't even seem adequate to just thank the Lord. Thank God that you survived that level of abuse, that level of terror, torture, physically and mentally, emotionally,
Yes, ma'am.
and let me say spiritually, because so many people, women especially, who are in abusive relationships, it changes their perspective on God, especially when they think about the fact that someone was telling them in the name of God to stay in the relationship. But the fact that you have maintained your belief, maintained your faith in God,
Yes.
and didn't blame God, I'm supposing.
No, I never.
Never blame God.
Never.
Okay. Woo, girl. Okay, I'm just going to have to stop for a minute, take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Conversations with Linda. Listen, we are having a very powerful, significant conversation with women who are survivors of domestic violence. I just had Kendra on the first segment, and a very moving story. And now I have Gwen on. And Gwen, welcome to Conversations with Linda.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lee.
Girl, I gotta say, you decked out in this purple. You can rock some purple hair.
Thank you. You know I'm not new to it. I'm so true to it.
Absolutely.
I'm so true to it.
You know, I think that domestic violence, because it's Domestic Violence Month in October, but it kind of gets lost or put on the back burner because it's also Breast Cancer Awareness. And I wanted to bring some attention to this topic because I think it is so significant. We wouldn't even believe that women today are being abused.
Absolutely.
But can you share your story?
Well, my story is a bit unique in some ways. Let me start off by saying I'm a church girl. So I've always been a church girl. And by the time I was 17, I met a pastor.
Okay.
So that is the unique part of my story, and not as unique as you would think.
Yeah.
But he and I met, and we were friends originally.
Uh-huh.
I was actually his babysitter because when I met him, he was still married.
Okay.
Years on down the road, we began to date.
Uh-huh.
And the relationship was going really well. So I thought people have to realize that domestic violence usually does not start on the first date.
Yeah.
Or the second date or the third date so many times. In my situation, it was 7 years.
Wow.
Into the relationship.
Wow.
So by the time that, and I came from a family, my parents before they died had been married almost 61 years. I didn't know anything about domestic violence.
Yeah.
I tell people often, I don't even know if I had ever used those words together. That was just something that happened to other people. But it happened to me, and I went through all of the phases of domestic violence, the verbal abuse, the mental abuse, the sexual abuse, the religious abuse, which is one that we don't talk about.
But let me slow this down. You met, he's a pastor,
He's a pastor.
And then 7 years in, what triggered that?
Well, it's ironic. When I was in counseling, and one of the things that I had to do was investigate his history. And we had a very long relationship. We never got married. Something always happened. We planned the wedding. We went and got the license. We did everything.
Wow.
But had the ceremony. But I tell people oftentimes when your head and your heart are at battle, so many times your heart wins out. See, I'm a young girl. I was a young girl who wanted what most young girls want. I wanted a husband. I wanted the, 2.5 kids, the dog, the picket fence, and all of this. And I was a gospel singer. So
and he was a pastor.
And we were picture pretty at the time. So what better way? So 7 years into the relationship, it just seemed like this, and of course he apologized. But as I thought back in retrospect, during those 7 years, there were signs.
Okay.
There were very subtle signs. And I think
like what?
The fact that he always wanted me there with him.
Okay, possessive.
Yeah, very possessive. But you know me, I'm young. I thought I was just the best thing since Jesus and sliced bread.
That was flattering for him to always
want you. Very flattering to me. And did I mention that he was wealthy? So I have to be honest, that
was attractive.
Absolutely. We traveled.
Okay.
There's nowhere in the United States that I've wanted to go that I probably haven't been at least once.
Wow.
So there were a lot of good things, a lot of good benefits, a lot of good perks. And but the possessiveness was one of the red flags.
Uh-huh.
But he would always cover them up. Abusers are very good manipulators.
Sure.
It's a power and control
Mm-hmm.
type thing. So he wouldn't just say, "I don't want you to go."
Mm.
He said, "Oh, I planned a trip to Hawaii."
Mm. So they would take you out of
That
whatever
would
you
take me out
away from your plans.
away from my plans.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We also planned a lot of big events together.
Okay.
So we pretty much worked really good together.
Uh-huh.
I was helping him with his church. I did not join his church,
Uh-huh.
but I did a whole lot there. I even left my job and went and worked at the
Wow.
church.
So you were all in.
I was all in.
And so then he starts abusing you. And the first time he apologizes, says it'll never happen again, but then it happens again.
Right. And
Did you fight back?
girl, I'm from South Memphis.
Well, I was getting ready to say, you
I-
strike me as the one.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, I never started a fight.
Uh-huh.
I never won a fight.
Uh-huh.
But he knew he had been in a fight.
Okay.
And I have a lot of scars, wounds
Mm.
that I have. I have permanent black eyes, so I know most every time you see me, I'm wearing this foundation and lipstick. So
So so when, because we think abuse, we think a lot. Oftentimes people think, a slap here, a slap there, but
Mhm.
this is like a balling up your fist,
oh
hit you
yeah,
in the
it was
eye.
a knock out, drag out fight. I only have 20% hearing in my right ear.
What?
To this day because of one fight we had in particular. I suffer with an illness that I'll suffer with the rest of my life because of the number of strangulations that I suffered. There's, it's not death threatening, but it is still a health issue that I would deal with.
Gwen, I guess I'm knowing you as I know you.
Yeah.
When all of that was over and you're looking at your face and you got a black eye or you got other scars, it's over, but
Mhm.
you're seeing yourself.
Yeah.
What are you saying to yourself to rationalize staying in this relationship?
There was no real rationalization.
Okay.
One thing that people don't understand when it comes to the thought process
Uh-huh.
of a victim
Uh-huh.
is that there is a certain degree of shame,
Mm-hmm.
humiliation,
Sure.
fear.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different kind of fear
Okay.
because you're not only fearing for your life at times.
And that's
you're-
huge.
That's a
Let me
big
say.
thing. But you also fear of never having a relationship.
Okay.
You fear who's going to believe me. And especially in my case, because we were public people.
Yeah.
So who's going to believe the little singer, gospel singer,
And this
over the
pastor.
big preacher
Mm.
and pastor?
Wow.
So you do that. And then the humiliation, the intimidation, the shame.
And so how would you listen to him preach? And I'm asking all these questions, of course, as a therapist, I really know
Yeah,
because I've talked to so many women.
absolutely.
You all would be surprised at how many women go through this with
Absolutely.
high profile men.
Absolutely.
High profile men.
Absolutely. And in the church.
And in the church.
I wrote a paper for school that's called The Unholy Hush in the Holy Place. Because
Wow.
it's a hard conversation that we don't like to talk about in the church. Now it's just beginning
Yeah.
to be a conversation, but the conversation is not as loud or as
No,
long
no.
as it should be.
Because there are still those who want to hush you,
Absolutely.
right? Because it's a bad light on the church.
Absolutely.
But how did you listen to him preach?
I didn't.
Okay.
It eventually got to a point where I would just block all of that out.
Uh-huh.
I would really just block all of that out. And you cannot imagine the number of sermons that I helped him with
Mm.
or
Wow.
Bible studies that I assisted.
And I got to ask you this, because you were dealing with a pastor. What in the aftermath of an abusive episode, how would he just act like it never happened? What was those conversations? Because in Kendra's case, this guy was on drugs,
Yeah.
and but now this is a man who's got to settle back down, engage with people in the congregation. So how did he rationalize it?
He didn't. Well, when I began to investigate his history without, just divulging too much information about his personal life, but you have to always consider the background. You have to consider what happened. It's like with the ACEs test.
Yeah.
You have to consider what he saw.
Yeah.
Or what he did not see.
Sure.
So,
can I say something as a therapist?
Sure.
You still have that protective nature. And I see it all the time with women who are, again, with either high profile people, but especially pastors.
Yes.
They still protect them.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think to a certain
because, girl, if he had been knocking me upside the head, everything would be, especially if it's over, because I can definitely, I get the fear while you in it. But I ain't saving you for nothing. We're going to put it all out here on the table. But I get you're still saying without divulging too much information. So I'm not trying to get you to go there.
Right. And the only reason that I do, I feel the protection is not for him.
Okay.
But for his church.
Okay. You don't think they knew anything?
There was only one person who knew, and she told me one day, and she knew for a fact, and she knew, and it was not because of anything she had seen other than knowing the signs. She said, Miss Gwen, one day you would have had your enough, and nobody will have to say anything. And you're gonna go on, and you're gonna be fine. But I want to go back to a question that you asked me about how did he rationalize. Now, after the big wang dang fight, and they would not be often, but they were often enough to impact my health, my body, and my life. But he would, of course, he would want to pray. He would want to.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
And what are we praying about?
We're praying this and. He was going to do all of these great things. And it wasn't until I finally left for good and he knew I was gone for good that he denied it. When I began to go public about it, and I was doing all of these TV interviews and people were, going through it. It was at that time he was like, no, that never happened. None of that ever happened. But God would so have it, and he is so strategic in everything that he does, that there were enough witnesses in enough instances that people knew it was true. They knew it was true, but I was free, and I was free indeed at that point.
Yeah. Were there people in I know you talked about that lady, but maybe family members saying, hey.
Oh, no. Look, Dr. Linda, I was the best actress and the best makeup artist.
Jesus.
I would have gotten awards.
Wow.
I was telling, I was at an event last night, and I told them I was singing, tithing. I was speaking in tongues. I was doing all of these things, and nobody had a clue. At one point in the relationship, I was working for the YWCA Abused Women's Shelter.
And being abused yourself.
And being abused. Nobody had a clue.
And so at night, when you are in the bed in your own personal thoughts, because that's when we, it's when you get quiet.
Absolutely.
And how were you just thinking, okay, it's going to get better?
I did that for several years, for a long time, because you always try to justify. And, statistics will tell you, because I left many times.
Okay.
And we were apart long lengths of time at certain periods. And, he kept saying, it's not going to be like this. And I would go back. He would always get sick. He was the master manipulator.
Wow.
When I would leave and he would think I was not coming back, I wouldn't talk to him. I'd disconnect from him. He would get sick. And he would do stuff like go in the hospital because he knew that I would come.
Draw you into the whole situation.
And or something would go on with the church
and
that he needed assistance with.
Okay.
And he knew that would, bring me back.
Okay.
So there were days that I was like, how did I ever get in this? I had to ponder that for many, many years, in and out of the relationship. And how because I had never seen it. And people so often say you draw what you saw. That was not the case for me.
What was it?
I didn't recognize the red flag.
Okay.
And then it took so long for an obvious sign of abuse to come that I was going through that battle that so many victims go through, where you battle your heart and your head is in a battle.
Yeah, yeah.
And so many times your heart will win over your head.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And plus, it's not as easy, and especially these days, it's not as easily to leave a relationship as it is to get into one.
I said that in a sermon that I preached not too long ago, that we think getting out, making an exit from a relationship is easy, but it isn't.
It's not.
Because now you've got so many intertwining things with one another, so many layers. All of that.
So many reasons. When I do seminars, I tell people all the time, victims stay for so many reasons.
Yeah.
One of the worst reasons is the children. Yeah. When that's the reason you really need to leave.
Right.
But then suppose they're the only breadwinner. I tell people all the time, stop telling people to just leave, because right now that's the most dangerous time in a victim's life. When they decide to leave, you just can't always get up and leave. You tell them to leave, but you don't offer your couch for them to sleep on, because you don't want that drama in your house.
Yeah.
You just want them to leave. And so many times victims, when they're still in love, they don't want the relationship to end. They just want the crazy to stop.
Yeah.
They just want the crazy to stop. And you believe in your heart that the crazy is going to stop.
Because you saw good in him too.
Oh, absolutely. He did great things for so many people. He really did.
Yeah, I got to ask you this.
Sure.
This. So when you came out and began to publicly talk about it, did you identify him as the person, or you were just saying you had been in a relationship and people just knew who you were talking about?
I identified his occupation.
Okay.
So, of course, then they knew. And it wasn't hard to figure out. I had dated that many people.
And let me ask you this. Did the community, the pastoral community, did they hold him accountable, or was it like in Kendra's case where people just didn't want to get involved?
No, actually, I was blessed. Some did hold him accountable, and they made sure I was taken care of.
Okay.
And to this day, I am so grateful. There were 3 pastors here in the city who said, okay, we realize now what is going on.
Wow.
That's our brother.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to him about it. But one thing we want you to do is never go back.
Yeah. That's good.
Whatever they didn't try to date me. They didn't try. It was none of that. They said, whatever bills you need to pay, we will pay them.
Wow.
Until
that
you
is
can.
So good.
And so I did have that kind of support. And so many victims that I work with don't have that kind of support.
Right. That's unusual.
Now, and then I had a community of singers behind me.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I had some pastors who were afraid to speak to me. Because you keep in mind, he was still a pastor.
Yeah.
We were still sometimes running in the same circle of services. But the one thing that I do regret about when I went public is that I did not have a family meeting.
Okay.
Because my family had no clue. And even when we broke up and it was just over. I'll never forget a conversation I had with my father, because not only was he materialistically good to me, he was materialistically good to my family.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and they never saw this side, and I never went around them when I
Yeah.
was wounded
Yeah,
or
okay.
anything like that. And my father was up in age, almost 80, had never been to jail in his life.
Mhm.
And if he knew that somebody had been
Yeah.
messing with his baby girl, it was going to be trouble,
Yeah.
you know. So when I had a conversation with Daddy, and he said, well, what happened? I said, we fought. Well, him being a man that would never hit a woman,
Yeah.
he heard fought, but he interpreted it as arguments.
Yeah.
He didn't conceive
Yeah.
physical
Yeah.
fighting.
Sure.
So as I began to interview more and talk to them more and really express some of the things that had gone on, I had to calm down my nephews.
Oh,
I
bet. I bet.
I mean, it was about to be a war.
Yeah.
My brother, who was not even in town, you know,
Yeah.
he saw a clip, and so everybody was up in airs. My
Wow.
pastor at the time was like, you know, GT, I had no clue, you know, any of this was going on.
Wow.
You know,
Amazing.
so it was overall, I would say 85%. I had a lot of support.
Okay.
I had some people who actually did not believe it.
Well, yeah, you're going to have those.
I had some people who told me that I shouldn't, you know, talk about it, you know, so.
Wow. Listen, we got to take a commercial break, but this is heart moving conversation, but I hope that it's informative, especially for someone who may be in some a relationship of sorts like this, or you have a friend, a relative that's going through. We're going to take a commercial break, and then I'm going to bring Kendra and Gwen together, and we're going to complete the episode. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Conversations with Linda. Listen, if you missed the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you need to go back and catch up, because we have been having a very heavy but informative conversation of what women go through in domestic violence situations. And I know that there are men who go through it as well. So we don't want to be biased in this, but these women have agreed to tell their story. Thank you, Kendra and Gwen, for coming, telling your stories. It takes a lot of courage. I know you've told your story many times because you're on this mission to help other women. But Kendra, you opening up, and even through your own tears, just know that you are helping someone, because I just believe somebody is watching, or they'll send this clip to someone else who will say, okay, it's time for me to go. It's time for me to go. So I wanted to talk to both of you now, because you're out of those abusive relationships. How do you love again? How do you trust a man? Because Kendra, you're married now, remarried. And how long have you been remarried?
I've been remarried 7 years, but I have been in some more relationships.
Okay.
And they weren't so great, but
so did you find yourself, and I want to make sure they can hear you, did you find yourself in other abusive relationships?
Not in other abusive relationships. One relationship after that, he was on drugs as well.
Oh, wow.
Like, I must have a light on the back of my head that said I take in people that's on drugs and abuse or whatever, but I finally got out of that one as well. But
okay.
Then I finally, got into a wonderful relationship with my husband now, and he's showing me how to, love myself and, love my kids more, and he loves me, and just showing me, how the love thing really works.
Okay.
Because
And what about the kids? Because they were there, or were they too young
they
to
were
know?
They were too young.
Okay.
To know. They were real, real small.
But this is their dad. Do they still have a relationship with him?
He's deceased.
Oh, he's deceased. Okay.
He's
All right. All right. Gwen, how does a woman find her way to open her heart after she's been through what you've been through?
Well, one of the things that I did for 3 years prior to me being able to leave the relationship, there was one prayer that I prayed. My pastor at the time preached a sermon that said, "Get me out of this and get this out of me."
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who he was talking about. I don't know what verse
Uh-huh.
he came from. But I heard that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I prayed that prayer for 3 years.
Yeah.
Coming out, I always tell people God strategically planned my life, because immediately after coming out of the relationship, I went to work for a counseling center.
What?
I went to work for the
Wow.
Healing Center,
Wow.
and I was
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember you working for the Healing Center.
Yes, and I was working there and to work, but I was getting free counseling.
Yeah.
And
You were in a
didn't know-
therapeutic environment.
Yes, and during the time, Dr. Young told me, "You're gonna tell this story," and I was like, "No, I'm telling you. I'm not going to tell anybody this story." But as you can see. So, but during that counseling season, I was also still praying that prayer. Get this out of me, and get me out of this and get this out of
Oh,
me.
that's a powerful prayer on any level with any situation that's
And another thing,
dysfunctional.
I was not angry with him when I left.
Really?
I was angry at me.
Okay. Okay.
After that day when I walked out of that door, because he too slapped me in the church. And that was the last straw.
He slapped you in the church
In the
with
church.
people around, like people there.
Well, no, people were there, but nobody saw the slap, but someone was coming into the room and heard the slap.
Oh.
And I looked at him and I said some choice words. None of them words in the Bible. And I kicked him as hard as I could, where no man ever wants to even think about being kicked. And I told him, "If you will slap me in the Lord's house, you'll kill me in your house."
Ooh. Ooh.
And I told him, "Loving you is killing me, and I'm gone." And it was like I never looked back. So I was through with him at that point. Then I had to deal with me, because I could not realize, woman of God, young lady of God, how could you have gone through all of this? So I had to deal with my embarrassment, to myself. It was not so, because once I knew that when he hit me that time, it was over. It was just done,
I think that is so necessary. After you come out of any dysfunctional relationship,
Absolutely.
You've got to look at yourself to see what was in me.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of relationship that was dysfunctional, but certainly one that was hurting you, whether physically, emotionally, because there are women who the guy will never touch them.
Absolutely.
But the emotional, mental abuse, the verbal abuse, but seeing what was in me and coming to recognize that you just wanted love, you just wanted, because that it does help.
Mm-hmm.
When you find yourself, you then begin to know not their red flags, but your own red flags.
Absolutely.
Your own red flags. And y'all, can y'all hear it's raining? It is pouring down. I'm telling you, but I want to make sure y'all are hearing all of this, because this is some good stuff. What would you all tell the woman now who's in it, whether she's married or the girlfriend? Because I can fathom being married, because now you're married, but being the girlfriend. But it happens all the time. And it happens now, Gwen, with young girls who with boyfriends.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Where the teenage girls,
Oh, the youngest client I had was 12.
what?
12 now. 12 and 14, I was still playing with dolls. I know I got a little age on me, but I'm
But
sure
yeah.
I had at least one doll
Yeah.
left. But yeah, you would be amazed at the kind of, and what's so connected to youth or young domestic violence is bullying.
Bullying.
There is a direct connection
Wow.
with that in our middle school age
Yeah.
population.
And moms or dads don't even know that their little girl is
Don't
being
have a clue.
bullied or be abused by her boyfriend.
Yes.
By her boyfriend. So, Kendra, somebody in your situation who's married, children, scared, no family support. Would you just speak to that? What could they do? What should they do?
I would tell them to reach out to try to get some help, because saying that it's going to get better, it's not going to get better.
Uh-huh.
Praying about it sometimes, at that moment, it's not going to fade away.
Right.
You're going to have to just
Do
get up and and get your kids, and don't just stay for the kids,
Uh-huh.
because they're going to have this, memory forever.
Yeah.
I'm glad my kids were smaller, so
Uh-huh.
they can't remember, a whole lot of it, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I would encourage them to lead, to get up.
So don't wait for the next,
No, because the next time you might not be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gwen,
I
what
would-
about you?
I would say she's so correct in the next time you may not be here. But one of the most important things that I think, if you know that you're in a relationship that you should not be in,
Uh-huh.
the first thing you need to do is start a safety plan.
Yeah.
There's a process into getting out safely.
Okay.
And it's a process. It's not an event.
Uh-huh.
You can't always just up and leave.
Uh-huh.
But if you know that this is something that you need to do, start making copies of your children's birth certificates,
Okay.
social security cards.
Because when you leave, you may not be able to pack all of that.
Absolutely. You may not leave with anything. Check your phone, your cellular phone. Make sure that your locations and your settings are always off. Have some kind of safety plan.
So that because he may have programmed your phone to be able to know where you are at all times.
At all times.
Okay, that's
that's the highest stalking thing that's
Mechanism,
going
uh-huh.
on. That's going on now. They put these air tags on your car, on your, so start making a safety plan.
Uh-huh.
Talk to somebody. There's got to be that one somebody. If you don't know what the resources are, check with that one somebody and say, hey, this is what I'm planning
Uh-huh.
to do.
Uh-huh.
And maybe you can put $5 aside a week. And
Yeah.
then for those of you who know people who are experiencing this, take out one lunch money a week and say,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this aside for Kendra, because she may not call me tonight,
But
and one
yeah,
day
that's
she's
good.
gonna call me,
Yeah, that's good.
and she can't come here because I'll shoot somebody, coming up in here. They may not
Yeah,
be able to come
yeah.
to your house, but you can say,
I got you.
sweetheart, I got you for a hotel for at least 2 nights, because the one thing someone fleeing from domestic violence needs more than anything
Uh-huh.
is a good night's sleep.
It's a good night. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good.
And then after you get some sleep,
you can think.
you can
think.
rationalize
Yeah,
on what
absolutely.
do I need to do
Because
next.
you've been in such terror.
Absolutely.
You can, yeah.
I didn't realize how sleep deprived I was.
Wow, that is amazing. Listen, and another thing I want to add to the list of things to do, because I used to work as a therapist with domestic violence
Mhm.
victims, and I've worked with the perpetrators. That's a whole nother conversation.
It is. It is.
But I've worked with the perpetrators that were mandated by the courts to see me as their way of escaping jail,
Mhm.
right? Or limiting their jail time. But the other thing that you need to do, if there's anyone watching or somebody, send this clip to them. You need to take pictures. Those
Absolutely.
black eyes, you need to take pictures of them. Those, wherever there is a scar, whatever, you pulled out a plug of your hair, take
Absolutely.
pictures, because it's your word against theirs
Absolutely.
if you find yourself in court. and you want to have pictures. I've had some clients that they came to me, but were not at the point where they were ready.
Mhm.
And I want to say something about that, where they were ready to go to the
Yes.
police or whatever. And I took their pictures and said, okay, I'll hold on to your pictures until you're ready,
Mhm.
because she has to be ready. And I want to say
Absolutely.
that to all the family members and friends who are getting ready to call your friend who you know has been abused, telling her, come on and get out of it.
Mhm.
It's not that easy.
It's not. It's not.
And it could, you talked about, and I don't know if this was on camera or off, but it could be her life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I took pictures and said, I'm gonna keep your pictures if you decide that I can help you. Why, you know, I'm willing to be here for you as a listening ear. But the day you decide to come out, just know I got your pictures for you.
Mhm.
Because she couldn't keep them herself
Absolutely.
because he was going through her phone.
Absolutely.
Because when they're possessive, as you
Absolutely.
dealt with,
Absolutely.
they're going through everything. So tell us now what you're doing, Gwen. You got something new on the horizon.
Yes, yes, I'm so excited. Those of you who know me know that I've been dealing with domestic violence and victims of domestic violence a long, long, long time. So now I am the new shelter coordinator for the YWCA of Greater Memphis. And I'm excited about this, and I want you to get excited about this, because what you don't realize is the YWCA of Greater Memphis is not only the greatest abused women's shelter here, but it's the largest, not only in Memphis and Shelby County, but the state of Tennessee.
Wow.
And and another amazing thing is not only will we take the women and their children, we do accept men.
Wow. Wow. Because men get abused too.
1 in 7
1 in 7.
reported.
Wow. We
Because-
got to have a show on that, because
Yes.
men, they are victims as well.
Absolutely. And it's harder for them to come out and confess that this is because, you know, they're men,
Right.
you
And
know.
who's going to believe that?
Yeah.
But they,
That happens.
oh,
But
it
it happens.
does. Yeah, I've had some clients as well. Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your new assignment. And I am so thankful that you have taken this on as a mission
Yes.
to continue in whatever way. I mean, you know, she's rocking the purple hair, all of it, to say this is real.
It is.
And if by telling your story, someone else can come out. I mean, just one,
Yes.
we've saved somebody's life.
Absolutely.
Same with you, Kendra. You've saved somebody's life. And even the trauma for the children, as you said, taking that on into their adult life
Mhm.
and possibly becoming victims themselves. So we're saving
Or
a lot of
abusers.
people. Or abusers.
Yeah.
Saving a lot of people. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm out of time, but I'm never out of conversation. Tune in each Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Conversations with Linda. Our pre-chat is at 6:30. I'm just thankful that these ladies have come to share with us. You all have a blessed week, and I'll see you next Sunday.